The term smart contract sounds really exciting and futuristic, right? But hold your excitement, because the current form of smart contracts are neither smart nor even contracts. Computer scientist Nick Szabo, an influential figure in the blockchain and cryptocurrency world, is credited with initially coining the phrase smart contract as early as the mid-1990s. A smart contract is simply a computer protocol, really some lines of code that automatically execute a specified action, like releasing a payment when certain conditions are fulfilled. So this code might represent an aspect of a contract, but the code itself is not actually a contract. Additionally, it's not smart because a person still needs to think of the terms that will be represented by the code. So someone like a lawyer is still needed to think through and negotiate the terms to be coded. So if these smart contracts are actually not smart nor contracts, why are they so special? Now, to answer that question, imagine you're cleaning out your room and find a tennis racket you never used and now want to sell. You go online and are able to find a buyer, say David, that lives nearby. You set up a meeting and show David the tennis racket. David confirms his interest and then gives you the money, and you hand over the tennis racket. In this example, there's minimal risk that David will be able to run off with the racket without paying you. But let's imagine the same situation, except you live far away from each other, so you aren't able to meet. Do you feel comfortable sending the racket through the mail and trusting David to pay you? Now, this type of risk is usually less of an issue when dealing with large companies, like when you order a t-shirt from your favorite brand's online store, or people you may have repeated transactions with. But for one-off situations, or large, complicated transactions like a home purchase, there can be some uncertainty about payment, delivery, quality of product, etc. In such a situation then, what if you can find a third party, say John, to take the payment from David before you send the racket, and you'll get the payment from John when the racket is received? Would that make you feel more comfortable? This is exactly how smart contracts work, using if something happens then, or when something happens then type of logic to solve this problem. So in our example, if a specified contractual term, say racket delivery, had been fulfilled, then the protocol would execute release of payment, thus solving the problem. So how does this relate to blockchain? With blockchain technology, these smart contracts can be stored or embedded on a blockchain. So instead of being visible to only the counterparties that may have a copy of the contract, like in a traditional contracting situation, a smart contract is available widely for inspection on the blockchain. So in the example of selling your racket, not only you, David, and John know about the contract, it is also visible to the bank who processes David's payment and the delivery guy who delivers the package and every other actor that may be involved in this transaction, or has access to the blockchain in general. The distributed nature of the blockchain then makes it difficult for a bad actor to not pay, delay payment, manipulate terms, or otherwise deviate from the terms of the original agreement, because the terms are recorded across the network and cannot be changed. And once they are fulfilled, then payment is self-executing and happens automatically. So what are the benefits of a smart contract? Well, some things that maybe come to mind are, 1, these things don't require human interpretation, hence taking out some human error. The reason for that is because they're self-executing. So there's no issues with a human doing something incorrectly as part of processing a contract, or it removes some of the temptation that maybe someone feels of like, well, if I keep my end of the deal, then I end up being worse off. So it removes this human temptation issue. Additionally, once a smart contract is coded in, generally it can't be changed. So it's immutable. Now, because of those factors, this ultimately should save time and money, thus making things more efficient and reducing transactional friction. Additionally, if we tie this back into the tennis racket example, it removes the need for a third party. You see, for lots of transactions historically, a third party has been necessary to hold payment or collateral due to risk related to a lack of trust, which is something we've talked about. Now, perhaps the most common form of this type of third party is something known as an escrow agent. So now imagine that instead of buying a tennis racket, a US company is trying to purchase a big building in another country, say China. They do not know each other, and they cannot meet somewhere with a pile of cash to make the payment and sign the deed at the same time. So the two contracting parties may enter into this staring contest of who's going to pay first or who's going to act first. In this situation, an escrow agent would serve as a third party or a middle party. On one hand, holding the payment from the US company, and on the other hand, holding a signed deed or legal agreement from the building owner. And once the two parties agree to pay, and finalize the terms of the transaction, the agent, this escrow agent, would transfer the money and the deed simultaneously. So ensuring that the person, the building owner, would get their money, and the building purchaser would receive the legal title and the relevant documents so they could own the building. As you can see, smart contracts would serve the purpose of cutting out the middle party, be it John in our tennis racket example, or the escrow agent in a large international real estate transaction. And as we previously discussed, a lot of time and money can be saved by cutting out this middleman. But does that mean smart contracts are a great solution for all contracting relationships or situations? And the answer to that is no. And we'll discuss why that is in the next video. But before that, we'd like you to think about a question. What are the situations in which a smart contract may make your life easier?